Welcome everyone to this Massive Darkness playthrough. This is some pictures of the first ever game I played of Massive Darkness when I first received the box, and I decided let's have a quick game of it, see how good it actually is. And so, as it's my first game, I do want to preference that I do get a couple of things wrong, and I also try to correct them in the game, but mistakes just happen anyway, don't they? It's all just a bit of fun. So we're just playing the normal tutorial in this one. Set up the board exactly like it said it should be in the rulebook. I picked 3 heroes. We went for Bjorn with an axe and leather armor. He's playing Shadow Barbarian, so he gets +1 max health. I got Elias with a staff and leather armor, and he's playing a battle wizard. And I got Sybil with short bow and leather armor, and she's playing Nightshade Ranger. So we're going to need level 1 and 2 guard cards in this one with some lesser monsters, and 1 and 2 treasures, because shouldn't really need the 3 just in case any specials are rolled, but that's easy enough to correct afterwards. But anyway, started the game, and the first action from Bjorn, who went first, was just to open the door, and as you can see there, we spawned some treasures and some goblins. This was the door card here, and this tells you all the information you need when you do open the door. Spawn a guard card in the first room, along with 2 treasures. Second room, no enemy, but 3 treasures. Third room, if there is one, is 3 treasures, no enemy. These can of course be different depending on what the card actually says. And then you spawn the guard card just randomly from your deck, and you give them a treasure of the same level, and depending on what the mob draw, they can actually use it if it had a sword icon or a shield icon. So it basically depends on whatever icons that they have on their card. This is a healing potion, so of course it's not viable for them. There they are, all spawned, and Bjorn's ready to take up the mantle and challenge them to a fight. Of course, he went in straight away, and I swung at them, deleting one of them, gaining 1 XP, and in return, because when you swing in the same area and swing at them, they hit you back, and they did 1 damage to Bjorn. Time for Elias though to do his wizardy thing. You can aim this at anywhere from range 1 to range 2, and he fired some nice bolts and managed to get rid of the other 2 guards against the boss there. Cannot have your damage transfer over to the boss, so the boss has to be dealt with separately, and he picked himself up a nice 2 XP gain. Sybil then moved forward. She tried to shoot with her bow, but she of course failed, and so it was down to the enemy phase. So the enemy was going to smack on Bjorn there, and he ended up doing 1 damage. Into the XP phase, but nothing could actually happen in the XP phase, so it was on to the events phase, and we fully healed 1 hero, which of course was Bjorn. Is the only one who took damage. As you can see there, he's gone back up to his 6 health. So it transfers over to the next person, which is Elias, and Elias swiftly dealt with the mob boss, granting everyone XP gains. As you can see here, everyone gains 3 XP, and it was nice for Elias. He can spend that XP in the XP phase next time round to get himself a nice power on his battle board. Well, Elias moved up, grabbed himself some treasure, short sword and armor of life. He can equip those straight away, and so he does. Next turn was of course Sybil, and Sybil just moved over to both of the other areas in that dungeon and picked up the treasures and the key to escape. You got herself a ton of treasures, as you can see here, but the only one she could really use is this composite bow. Bad luck on my shuffling of the treasure deck as well, because it's all sudden healing potions. What was I doing? But I decided to equip that composite bow straight away, as you can see, and that should be very nice for Sybil. Messed up here though on my next turn, and yeah, this wasn't very good at all. So with Bjorn, I charged straight over to the next door, feeling very confident and cocky. Ripped it open and ended up getting myself a dwarf agent. which is not very good at this level when you basically have no treasures or anything whatsoever. It was very, very bad play, and you'll see why coming up. But as you can see at the bottom right hand corner, I managed to get a special treasure, and what the special treasure is you draw a level above, so that would actually be a level 3 treasure. There is the card anyway that we got, and it is Ambush. Spawn a guard card in the active heroes zone, no enemy. And this is where I messed up. You were supposed to spawn a guard card in the 3rd area, but I didn't read the card properly, and so I never actually spawned those guards. The Dwarf Agent though is strong. He got himself a healing potion. Yeah, no idea what I was doing with the shuffling of the decks, but he basically gets health to the equivalent of the heroes in the game, so he gets ×3 health, which 3 times 3 is of course 9, and you can see right there at the end of the enemy's phase he spawns a guard card on the level token of the tile, so you need to dispatch this guy quickly, and he has 3 yellow dice to throw for his attacks, and also a blue and a green dice, which is basically ridiculous. He's so hard to get rid of. Of course, in the enemy's phase, because that was the end of the hero's phase, basically he dispatches Bjorn very, very fast, and then at the end of the enemy's phase spawns himself a guard card on the level token. Yeah, you imagine if I'd put the guards as well in the doorway, the 3rd tile, like I was supposed to. Wow, we would have been swarmed. But anyway, the Goblin Archers have spawned, and you can see right there, they're tough but not amazing. If you can get into close combat with them, they will struggle. It's just a matter of avoiding that ranged attack. And in the XP phase, I spent the 5 XP on Elias to get himself the magic fireball attack. So I forgot the event phase at this part. I'll do correct that in a minute. But anyway, on to the Lightbringer, and you only have 2 of these at the start of the game. You can change it depending on if you want an easier game or not. But I decided to stick with the rules and just have 2, and you just pick the life off at the start of the game, and Bjorn comes back to life with full health. So it's on to Sybil's turn. She opened the door, moved out, and she's going to start firing at the dwarf. She removed 2, and yeah, it's not looking good for us. Bjorn gets to attack next though. He removed 3. So he did okay, and the dwarf I think hit him back for just 1, so that wasn't a bad exchange really. On to Gandalf though. Elias, he teleports out to that zone and then tries to attack the dwarf right in front of him with his magic attacks, and just did the 1 wound. That was literally all he did. Yeah, this dwarf was strong. And then we're on to the enemy's phase, and as you can see, yeah, it didn't go well. Basically, Bjorn and Sybil both being taken out. It went pear-shaped after that, I'm afraid. And of course, I forgot to add another guard card at the end of the enemy's phase at this point. Completely forgot. First game syndrome. And as you can see here, we went to the event phase. I forgot about the last event phase, so I bought that one up. Inflict 2 wounds to an enemy in a shadow zone, and I soon quickly did that straight away onto the dwarf who is in the shadow zone. And then we've got Rear Patrol, which is spawn a guard card. Yeah. So the Dwarf Agent is down to 1 wound, and we ended up spawning a level 1 guard card on Gandalf. Yeah, and it was these dwarf warriors who are not strong, but they have a lot of health. And then at the start of the phase, obviously, you can see right there that we are basically at 0 health now. As soon as one person dies, that is it. So at this point, I go back and I correct my mistake, which was not spawning guard card at the end of the enemy's phase. And it looks like we spawned some dwarf defenders. Yeah, they have the ability to use that Sword of Might because it has the same symbol as their attacks, so they get 3 yellows in the attack. They are hefty. Anyway, on to Bjorn's turn, and the first thing Bjorn did was he ripped down that dwarf agent. He was very cheery once he'd done that, and I honestly felt like I'd won at this point. I really did. I also managed to take out all the rest of the mob with that boss there, all the archers, so Bjorn was really feeling strong at this point. And look at that gain. It's gone up to 11 XP. Going into Gandalf, and Gandalf, because he was 2 away, shot at the boss of the goblins, killed him, teleported, then shot at the pursuing dwarfs that were behind him, and managed to take out everyone but the boss. But I have made a mistake by the looks of it on the picture and removed the boss instead of one of the warriors. Oh well, that boss is still there in spirit. Look at them gains from the experience that we've just earned. It's absolutely amazing. Suddenly we could potentially be very strong. It's on to Sybil's turn now, and Sybil, she spent all of her turn basically shooting at that boss and eventually killing it. Yeah, it wasn't very good play by Sybil. Bad dice rolls, but we did manage to gain even more XP, and now it is time to spend it after this enemy phase. The enemies, of course, move in and they will attack Bjorn, but I don't believe they did any damage whatsoever. Got very, very lucky, especially with 3 yellows. I think they whiffed all of the yellows. I think it was 3 blanks. So we go into the XP phase. We spend on the Shadow Barbarian, so Bjorn, he gets charged now, which basically means as soon as he moves into an enemy space he can attack. He's got sustained damage, which basically means unequip your armour. He gets taunt, which means he's always attacked. He gets +1 damage to his attacks, and he also gets +2 blue defense dice. And then we got Two-Handed Specialist as well, which is reroll attacks. For Elias, I went for the max health and also the Sword and Spell, which basically means he rerolls his attack. And then for Sybil, I just had the ranged, which is reroll attack, and Safe Shot, which means she can move 1 space forwards and then fire her bow. But this was the event card that we got. It was the Forward Monster Patrol. And this is my first access, of course, to a roaming monster. And it was, of course, the Liliarch, who has 12 health. You cannot use that javelin, but she just looks an imposing beast boss blocking our exit way there. On to Gandalf's turn now, and he basically teleported 2 away into the Shadow Zone, so he could actually use his magic attacks. And he fired his magic at the dwarfs, and he managed to take out 3 of them. Sybil was next up, and Sybil fired and eventually killed the dwarfs, but that was literally all her turn. Yeah, bad rolls from Sybil. First thing I did with Bjorn now was go and take that big juicy treasure right in front of me. I managed to get a lucky find, which means you roll a level 4, and I was hoping for an axe or some strong weapon. Unfortunately, I got a scepter that I basically couldn't use. So I charged in, tried to take as much damage as possible off her, and I did a little bit of damage. As you can see, she's down to 6 health, so I did half her wounds for only 2 in return. The second she had the enemy's phase, which of course was next, she just wiped out Bjorn. And that, my friends, was that. My first experience at playing Massive Darkness, and I lost. Still, it was an amazing game. Did I learn some things? Yes, I did. Very much so. Especially after playing later on quite a few times like I have done. I learned the enemy's phase, and I learned how to read the cards properly on the doors. And I also learned not to charge forwards willy-nilly. It's just like Zombicide in that sense. You can't just charge forward and expect no one to take you out. You can't be a lone gun, and you do need to get lucky on some of the treasures in like the first couple of areas, but oh well, it was a great experience and I have played this game to death ever since. You can hear my thoughts after a few games in my other video where I do a proper review of it, but this was just a little play that I'd took pictures of and wanted to get out there to show you the flavour of the game. Thanks for watching anyway, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.